there are very good stories that came out of China, but because we set our own agenda as a media and responded to it, and then Kenyans missed the opportunity to have access to all these good things that came out of this trip.
Okay, Rose. So you spoke about what White said on a different station yesterday, was it?
Yeah.
And so we have Laban Cliff Onserio, who's the Deputy Communications Director, the President's Delivery Unit, and he provides this clarity. He says White's comment was clear. The President was counseled by the Attorney General that the contract can only be accessed through a public audit process, and that can only be done through the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't. The law does not allow him to. Public can access any document through the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee. My question to you, Temesi, is that shouldn't the President have known that? At the time he was making a commitment to release the contract to Mark Masai.
It's not that the contract cannot be accessed. It's just the mechanism of access. And we are a representative democracy. Let's just not forget where, you know, we have structures, okay? And the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament represents Kenyans, okay? Those are elected members of Parliament. So what simply put is that it's accessible, but there are limits as to who can be able to access this document. And that's what the Chief of Staff was simply saying. So when the President says that this document is available, he was right, because this document is actually available. And it's the same thing that the Chief of Staff confirmed yesterday. So I don't see any contradiction.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Temesi, I'll quote Edwin and tell him I understand the position you're in. But we all watched that interview. It was broadcast nationally, and he said he would make the contract available to Mark Masai. There was nothing mentioned about the Public Accounts Committee. Yes, Edwin.
I called Temesi's boss when I was doing my story, and she told me, no problem. We'll even circulate it this weekend to all media houses. It is quoted in the story. I tell you, these pins are very hard to make, and it's not easy job. I understand you.
We keep getting back to the issue of communication. How do you communicate to us? Because, I mean, initially, when you say, yes, I'll make it available, and then you say, no, it's not available, you know, and the wording used was, no, you cannot access it. You know, it wasn't like, yes, you can access it, but we have to give it to you through this process, you know. It was like, no, you cannot access it, you know. So, I mean, I think government needs to clean up its communication and understand that it's the priority of government to talk to its people and tell them what it's doing and how and why, long before the SGR comes.
Or just tell them when you are not going to tell them anyway.
Yes, tell them that you're not going to tell them.